Citation 598622 or email us your comments.
Ottawa Experts on Rogers TV, an interactive phone-in show featuring industry experts discussing everything from real estate to weddings and retirement. Ottawa Experts, Monday nights on Rogers TV.
Looking for an all-access pass to the Major League Baseball games you want to watch? Rogers Super Sports Pack has you covered. With MLB Extra Innings, you'll have a premium ticket to up to 85 out-of-market regular season games each week, with up to 50 in HD. Catch all the action from the games you want from both the American and National Leagues. MLB Extra Innings, part of the Rogers Super Sports Pack. For only $36.31 a month, you get all this, including a subscription to Sportsnet magazine. Order through your remote or call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today.
This week on Molson's Senators Overtime, it's crunch time, and the Honey Badger Corey Conacher is in the Sens profile, and the kids go for a skate with Eugene Melnick. Molson's Senators Overtime, Thursday at 7:30.
Good evening. Welcome to Talk Ottawa. Tonight, we're going to look at the future of the west end of our city. Is that where the casino is going to end up going if it doesn't go downtown? What route should LRT take through the west end? And what's going to be the impact when DND relocates many of its employees there from the downtown core? Coming up later in the show, we're going to be joined by Nepean Carleton Conservative MPP Lisa MacLeod. But joining me so far are a panel of West End City Councillors. We're joined by Shad Kadri from Stittsville Ward. Eli El-Shantiri is the City Councillor for West Carleton March. Alan Hubley is from Canada South, and Mark Taylor is here from Bay Ward. Welcome to all of you. And let's start with LRT because that's a relatively new development. You've actually come up with, or city staff have come up with a plan to get it through the West End. A number of different options were looked at. Mark, you've been closely following this, and it does go through your ward. So are you satisfied that this is going to be the option that ends up being implemented one day?
You know, I like this option, the Richmond Underground option. It's the preferred route that the staff have ranked, and I was a big supporter of Carling Avenue in the past and looking at it. And city staff did exactly what we told them to do after our council meeting last summer. They went away and they looked at the economics of Carling Avenue, even factoring in things like, you know, development potential, uplift potential, how much would you generate in revenue? If you put that towards the project, would that help with the financing end of it? They also looked at the technical piece, you know, but there was no way ultimately to connect it without winding up sending people backwards to go forwards if they were coming in from the West End. So I think in landing on the western route that they have now, the Richmond Underground, they've wound up avoiding the Parkway, which was a big point of contention for a lot of people. They've avoided any kind of impact to the Byron Linear Park. People didn't want it on the park, certainly, and they didn't want it under the park. So I think they've threaded a needle here and come up with a solution. At least the community associations that I've been working with that have given me feedback so far like it.
So to be clear, instead of going on the Parkway itself, it's going to go adjacent to the Parkway, and then it's going to cut through the west end of the city in McKellar Park underground, and eventually get over to Lincoln Fields.
Yeah, I mean, if you imagine, you know, and you can see the documents on ottawa.ca, but if you imagine Richmond Road as it looks right now, that's essentially what it's going to look like in the future. There would be a new station at Cleary Avenue, which right now there's a mini mall, little strip mall there. So there'd be a new station where that strip mall is. And then you would go right underneath Richmond Road all the way up. There'd be another small station at New Orchard. But effectively, if you were walking, biking, driving down Richmond, the only thing you would notice is, you know, there's less of a need for buses and other pressures on the roadway.
But it is going to go right next to the Western Parkway. So for those people who were saying we don't want it on the Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway, Is this really that much different? Because you're still going to have overhead wires, it's still going to have an impact on access to the river. So already I've heard a few people coming forward and saying, well, this route has the same issues that putting it right on the road does.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the maps and you expand them big enough so you can see, and of course we have an open house coming up at the city and we want people to come and give feedback. This is the beginning of the consultation on this draft, not the end. But I really think we have avoided an impact on the Western Parkway, certainly to the extent that we can. We already have a transit corridor coming up there from Dominion Station. As opposed to using lanes on the parkway and obviously fences on either side, which would create a barrier, we are pulled up much closer in the space, the green space that we do have to be in, to our existing transit thruway, and then almost immediately you kind of enter into Cleary and then go right into your tunnel. So you've used a very, very small space of land, and we'll provide underpasses or some mechanism for the small number of folks who live along there to get through. So for most of the folks who use the parkway, it'll be zero impact.
Now, let's get some opinions from the rest of you. You're all far enough out in the West End that this doesn't directly affect you. It'll be years before light rail is reaching any of your constituents. So what do you think about this solution?
Well, first of all, Mark, thank you. It is a good solution, at least for our part of the West End in terms of the deep West End. It does provide a corridor that we didn't have up until yesterday in terms of a recommendation as to which corridor we were going to use. At least now it's a definitive corridor that can be used for future expansion, maybe 20 years down the line or 30 years down the line, but at least we have that corridor now. And as Chair Mark Taylor was saying, in terms of the Western Parkway, we put it in order to not divide that community by putting an LRT in the middle of it on the Western or on the Parkway. We put it to the south part of the Parkway in terms of along the river, and rather than dividing the community. And your comment about visibility, we are looking at, or at least some of the designs I saw yesterday, do suggest that the berms and so on and so forth will hide most of it, maybe not all of it, in terms of the overhead wires, but it will mitigate some of that effect.
Okay. Eli, what do you think?
Well, for us, as you know, we are the further ward in the city west, and I don't think we're going to see much in our area than probably the next 20 years. But any work done, it will help our resident. As you know, the less cars on a Queensway, it is going to help us to be able to move around. And we made the investment in the widening the 417 a few years back from Bayshore to Canada. And I believe that was the biggest lifeline we ever seen for the West. And now we're doing from Canada to, from Eagleson to the Scotiabank place. And if you see the pattern of the traffic in the evening, you can see where got congested, we've turned from 4-lane to 2-lane. So for us, the LRT cannot come any sooner, because obviously the less car you're going to see on a highway, the better is it for us in that area. But where we're going to see it happen, I think we'll come to probably to the village of Carp at some point when we'll start going to Canada North. Okay.
Alan, what do you think about this solution?
I think Mark was right that it shows that we did listen to the input that was provided by all the residents and various stakeholders, such as the NCC. I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to be an acceptable route. I'm waiting to hear, like Mark is keeping us informed on the feedback he's getting in his community on it. The NCC is meeting today on it to see what they think about the footprint that we will be putting on the parkway, because there still will be some. We won't be going the full length of it, but we will still be taking away some of that green space that's there and introducing overhead wires and so on to the area. So I want to see that feedback before I come out 100% on this one.
Okay. So is this going to be expensive, given that we're going to be digging a tunnel now, not just through downtown Ottawa, but through the West End as well?
Well, certainly the least expensive option was to use the parkway out in the open. I mean, there's nothing there.
Right.
So if you don't have to tunnel and you don't have to deal with any obstacles in your path, obviously that's the least expensive. But expense isn't the only factor to be considered in any project, particularly a project that's supposed to serve residents and serve their multiple interests, not just transit. This option falls, on the lower end of the scale, but it falls between, the top end, which was the Carling Avenue options, which even if you could solve the tech problems, they're still hyper expensive, 2 to 3 times more. And it's certainly not the Parkway option at the bottom, but we're still in the hundreds of millions rather than in the billions range.
But it's almost $1 billion.
It is. There's contingencies built in, pretty healthy ones at this point, because we're doing such a high-level design that we just need numbers for comparators. It is expensive, no two ways about it. But obviously, if you're trying to serve multiple interests at the same time, there's a price to be paid for that.
And where's the money going to come from, and how soon will it be available? Because we've just gotten hundreds of millions of dollars from each level of government to support.
To clarify the number itself, when you're saying about the number, when we say Carling was going to be 2.3, but that's in today and with a Class D. But it's the same thing where we talk about the Richmond Tunnel. It's going to be about 900, but also with today and Class D, which could add between 25 to 40%.
Yeah.
Depend on the time when you're going to do this. So yes, you're right. The question is where the money going to come from. The other 2 levels of government, they're going to be engaged with us, and I'm hoping soon. But you can engage the other level of government before at least this council and the resident of the city make that decision. That's the option. This is the route we like to see going in the future, and that's focus on. And then we need to open that dialogue with the other 2 levels of government. Definitely, we need to support the provincial and the federal to be able, like we did.
You have to give them the right plan and
correct.
something where there's consensus. But is the money going to be there when we need it?
Can I just clarify something that Councillor El Shanturi just said? The Class D means it could go up 25%, so 1.2 billion. There's a 40% contingency built into that 900 million cost. It won't go up 40% over the 900.
Okay. All right, we have to take a break. We've got more to talk about as we look at the future of the West End of Ottawa. We'll be right back on Talk Ottawa.
This program is sponsored in part by Ottawa's only all-news radio station, 1310 News. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All News Radio, 1310 News.
For 15 years, A Taste for Life has been taking people out of the kitchen and into Ottawa's delicious and fantastic restaurants. I'm Steph the Grilling Gourmet, inviting you to come out and dine on April 24th at a participating Taste restaurant. 25% of your total bill will then be donated to Bruce House and the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation. It's hope made delicious. I know where I'm going to dine on April 24th. Do you?
My name is Ross, and I work on the Daytime Ottawa show, and I've been volunteering for about 3 years. I decided to start volunteering for Rogers TV because I wanted to change, a new career, and this was the best fit for me. I would recommend volunteering at Rogers. You get your hands on state-of-the-art equipment, and you get your foot in the door with a hands-on experience.
Catch exciting volleyball action on High School Game Day, Thursday at 8 on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Talk Ottawa. We're talking about the future of the West End of the city, and let's talk about the casino, because it seems like nobody wants it downtown. So if there's going to be a casino but it's not going to be downtown, do any of you want it in your ward? Do you want to see it in the West End? There had been talk about maybe putting it at Scotiabank Place. You want to see it along the
put it on the train? No, I suggested when we first started talking about this, we were talking about it earlier. My suggestion was put it on a riverboat like the you see in Mississippi and Louisiana and places like that, and
then it could move to all of your wards.
It would go up and down the canal. It could go up and down the Carp. You know, we can do all kinds of things with a boat. So
yeah,
not in the winter though.
Not in the winter, but
yeah.
I still think too soon to make a decision where it should go, because I'm not convinced we should write the write-up for the Rideau Carlton Raceway.
Right.
I believe it still can meet. I hope they will meet the criteria to expand and stay, because to talk about parking, even coming to Rogers today, it took me 20 minutes to find a parking here. So you can just imagine parking is not easy anywhere downtown or in the hub. So for the casino, parking is the most successful way we see it. Look around, whether in Gatineau or in our area, it's the parking. The parking is the ticket here. How much parking can you provide? People don't come on a bus or an LRT or in a boat, according to my car, to play at a casino. They drive their car. And that's something really we have to focus on, the location. And at this point, I don't, or tour buses, but obviously that's the concern I have. But I'm not convinced Rideau Carlton Raceway should be counted out at this point.
Shad, what do you think?
My first choice would obviously be Rideau Carlton Raceway, because you know, they are there already. They have been dealing with this issue in the past. But if that option is not available or does not work out for whatever reason, then to me, Scotiabank Place makes the ultimate sense. The Ottawa Senators and their organization are expert in entertainment, and this is part of that entertainment. And that's the other way. The other thing is, in that if you were to locate it at Scotiabank Place, what Councillor Chanteri mentioned about the parking, not really an issue. Parking's available throughout the day. The only time it would be an issue is on event night or what have you, but they can accommodate and build something for that. In terms of the location, the Scotiabank Place, it's on the east-west route in terms of 417. It's north-south route in terms of 416, not too far away. Within the community of Stittsville and Canada, there are good roads infrastructure already there. So to me, Scotiabank Place would make sense. Having said that, I don't know whether Sen's organization is interested in that. And if they are and they will put a proposal together, then we'll see what happens, what comes out of it.
Just to go back to light rail for a minute, since we're talking about Scotiabank Place, how long is it going to be before we've got something going out to one of the biggest destinations in the city?
You'll
right
be
now,
on reruns by then.
yeah,
Right now
It's 2031.
2031. Yeah. So I'll be retired by the time there's a train going out to Scotia. Is that a flaw in the plan, or is that a flaw in Scotiabank Place being out there in the first place? Because this is one of the major destinations in Ottawa, and we don't really have a simple public transit solution.
That's why one of the things I've been saying and my colleagues have been talking about is we need to get the transitway pieces fixed to get the buses out to Scotiabank and back faster than we can today. We did a deal with the province last year to put a ramp for buses only coming out of Scotiabank. We have to get the pieces in Mark's ward around Bayshore and from Bayshore all the way out to Scotiabank, so that there's bus-only lanes that can get in and out of there, and then that will help address that. We can't wait for the train to solve that problem.
Right, but in the meantime, we're going to be ripping up the transitway in some cases, the transitway that's taking people part of the way there.
Yeah, and I agree with Alan in the sense that we've got kind of these orphaned pieces of the transitway, and connecting them certainly makes incredible sense. But I don't disagree with the value in starting the tunnel at the core, right? Because from a people moving standpoint, at your rush hour peak periods, which is when the majority of people depend on it, if you don't solve the problem at the destination, and we know the destination is between Tunney's and downtown for the most part, then you can build the best system in the world out in the suburbs, but you're just going to jam more and more people into a bottleneck. So you solve the bottleneck first,
sure,
and then we can work on connecting the other pieces.
As a transportation system, like we don't have to do the whole thing immediately in rail. We can use buses, and as we're using the old train to serve the south, we can use different modes to get people where they're going. But Mark's right, we got to solve the downtown issue first. So.
And in the West End, for the present time, we are looking at the expansion of the BRT system into Stittsville, into parts of Canada, connecting those pieces between Lincoln Fields and the Canada and Lincoln Fields to baseline in the future. But those pieces are missing currently, as everybody said around the table, is to get those pieces in first, then look at Scotiabank Place as a major draw in terms of LRT or what have you.
All right. I just want to go back
very
to
quickly.
casino for a moment, though. I think there's one piece in the casino discussion that always gets kind of lost or presupposed, and that is that council is not a gaming facilities operator, right? We don't go out and solicit. So, you know, through the process with the OLG, when someone puts a proposal together, then great, bring it to us and we'll look at it. But until then, we could speculate until the cows come home about where we put it or what it looks like.
Yeah, but you have some say in whether a particular proposal goes ahead, so that's why your opinions are relevant to this discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the impact of the move of DND employees out to the West End, and we'll be joined by Lisa MacLeod, the MPP for Nepean Carleton. We'll be right back on Talk Ottawa.
It isn't a party until the Rogers TV Tim Hortons Community Cruiser is on the scene. Hot coffee, tasty treats, and awesome prizes.
Hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm at the Barhaven Used Toy and Clothing Sale. There are a lot of great stuff here, and I'm on Rogers TV.
Where will the cruiser be next? Maybe at your event. Log on to rogerstv.com and find out how. Meanwhile, keep your eyes on Rogers for more cruiser moments.
The pavement lies before him. A street lamp lights the way. Such steady pace and lane control, his passengers will say. He brought us safe together, and we've had a merry time. While we drank beer and shots, he ordered soda with lime. We hope he always joins us. We enjoy his company. A leader, a warrior, a man amongst men. For short, just call him DD. Thanks to designated drivers everywhere.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Capture the action. Generate the action. Interact with the action. Be part of the team. Join Rogers TV volunteer team today to become part of the action.
This program is sponsored in part by today's best music. The new 105.3 Kiss FM, where every Monday is commercial-free Monday. No commercials, just today's best music all day. Only on the new 105.3 Kiss FM.
Welcome back to Talk Ottawa. We're talking about the future of the West End of the city, and we're joined by the MPP for Nepean Carleton, Lisa MacLeod. Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
So we've been talking about a few things here with our panel of councillors, and just want to get your quick opinions on some of them. What you've seen so far of the light rail plan through the west end of the city, what do you think of that?
Well, you know something, that's a decision the city is going to have to make in consultation with the public, and it's one that obviously I support. Rapid transit going into the east end, the west end, particularly the south end, where my constituency mainly is. But I really view my role and every MPP's role in the city as supporting the city once they have made those final determinations and they've consulted widely with the public, just to make sure that there is adequate funding so that we don't end up in a situation like the GTA is. And we are getting to that point in Ottawa and in Eastern Ontario where we do have lengthy commutes and we do have a lot of gridlock. But I think that the planning is there now. There seems to be much more stability in the last year and a half on this project than there had been in the previous 3 or 4 years, so it's good to see that. But we'll make the final determination when the public does, and I think that's what the City of Ottawa's job is to do, is narrow those choices down at this point in time.
By the time the city comes to the provincial government and asks for money for future legs of the light rail system, future phases, it could be that your party's in government at that time. Are you going to continue down the path of funding light rail in Ottawa?
Well, look, I mean, obviously a lot of these plans are going to be 4 or 5, even longer periods of time down the road, so there could be several governments that will have to be part of this. I think it's important that the city puts these plans in place, that they are affordable, and they can always count on me to champion sensible plans here at Queen's Park for our municipality. But again, I think that we've been pretty clear in the Ontario PC Party that we have to deal with gridlock. That is costing us jobs. It is costing us products moving quickly, and affordably, and of course making sure that moms and dads are home on time for their kids' soccer game, or even home in time for bedtime. So, that's something we'll talk about. I've always been a firm believer, Mark, and I think you probably recognize this, that we can't always put all of our eggs in one basket. We have to make sure we diversify. So I'll always continue to defend my constituents who need a road or a bridge, because, of course, I do represent a large rural area as well as suburban urban areas. So I think as long as we're diversified and the city is putting the investments and the time into putting forward a good route, one that has been widely consulted on, that it makes sense when you go to Queen's Park with a plan that can sell for the city, and I think that's something I'd be definitely interested in.
But in principle, a progressive conservative government would support the idea of putting more money into light rail transit in the Ottawa area. You wouldn't have any philosophical objection to that, and you would make it a priority within whatever budget limitations you've got at the time.
Well, certainly today we still have severe budget limitations here in the province. Charles Sousa, the new finance minister, announced yesterday we still have a $10 billion hole. There is money that is, I would suggest, being still under lock and key for the existing light rail. I believe $300 million from the province, and that money is going to have to be first spent, of course. But at the same time, we are looking at ways that we can reduce gridlock in urban areas, and I think that's really important, because I think one of our biggest hindrances in growing our economy is the fact that in our major centres, whether it's in our community in Ottawa, or it's in Toronto, or even in Kitchener and London area, is gridlock. So we need to make sure that Ontario is moving.
And is there anything else that you consider to be a priority for the west end of the city?
Well, obviously, the roads, transit, and bridges issue is very big for us developing communities, and it's one of those things that's very important. But I would say fundamentally is bringing jobs to the region. And I think in one area, in one part of my riding, in Bell's Corners, we want to make sure that D&D is welcomed and that we can help enhance the business community in Bell's Corners. And on the other part, in the south end of my riding, where we've got the Greeley and Finley Creek, we do have a racetrack there that is trying to stay alive after some catastrophic policies from the government. So, I mean, jobs, I think, are the number one issue for any community in the province, and it happens to be a very important issue for us. And I think that is probably the largest issue that we have to deal with in our community, but certainly in the road to recovery for our province is to get people working and keep those jobs that we do have.
All right, Lisa MacLeod, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Lisa MacLeod, the MPP for Nepean Carleton. Let's talk quickly about the move of D&D jobs out to the West End. There was a concern raised about that. We did a whole show on that recently. But the city has said we've got to make it more of a priority to have jobs in the East End, and yet here are some jobs moving from downtown to the West End. Is it perpetuating the imbalance in our region of where jobs are located, do you think?
Well, first off, those jobs aren't in the East End now.
No, they're downtown.
The D&D jobs are spread around the area. They're consolidating a number of their buildings into one big location that has come available. And hopefully, by going to that location, the building that's already there and built, they have to do some of a retrofit to it, but we would hope there's going to be millions of dollars saved for the taxpayer by using that building. Right. So it's a bit of a misleading statement to suggest that the jobs are coming out of the east and being moved to the west.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying that they're moving from downtown, but does it perpetuate the imbalance that, because you're trying to move jobs to the East End, that's a stated position of City Council, isn't it? To move more jobs to the East End where the ratio of jobs to residents is the lowest. Isn't that the case?
Well, that's one part of the other. The other part, we have so much land, industrial land, right, to be developed, and as we speak, it's not been developed. For many years, been sitting idle. This properties is on. So we were trying to create incentive, and that incentive, it was thought to be just for the East End, but actually we have some in Carlin Avenue in some area, like in the West End as well. If people wants to develop, there's an incentive for them to develop. So it's not just really, Mark, to bring job from here to there, trying to develop some land, and you're right, so people can work where they live.
Okay, we'll have to stop there. We're out of time. Thank you all for joining us on the show.
So me too.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Talk Ottawa. Good night.
Rogers TV viewer response line at 613-759-8622 or email us your comments.
On this week's program, we'll be featuring hip-hop artist Aaron the Alien. Here on CKCU Presents.
Smelling myself, I'm too fresh, no need to shower. Breakfast don't support a meal, forget it. Need to hack a dot, I'm late, but I don't sweat or run for class though. Yeah.
So you want to score one of those slick Nextbox 2.0 HD PVRs for free? You know, the one you can manage from your tablet? Here's what you do. Next time you watch the OHL playoffs on Rogers TV, grab the passcode, punch it in the contest page, and boom, you're entered. Got it? Netbox 2.0 HD PVR. OHL playoffs on Rogers TV. Passcode, contest page, enter, boom. Oh, and good luck.
Tripping in Orbit, Ottawa's new sketch comedy show on Rogers TV.
You're watching Rogers TV Ottawa.
The following program is brought to you by Rogers Multicultural Programming. Over 100 channels in more than 20 languages.
Welcome to Projection Pakistan. This is Kamal Masood sitting on location. We had a great show tonight about hepatitis C, and I'm very fortunate and lucky to have Mashuda Sayed with me. She is one of the recipients of Queen Elizabeth Award, and we welcome her because she is one of the few from Pakistani community who have received that award. And as you know, she is a real activist. She's always involved in different kind of volunteer work, but this is a great achievement. All the community is very happy, and on behalf of Projection Pakistan, I want to congratulate her and welcome her. And I'm going to ask her a few questions. Maybe she's going to answer how she got this kind of recognition in such a short time.
Thank you. I think the reason I got the Queen's Golden Jubilee Award is because of the extensive work that I did rebuilding the Canada-Pakistan Association in the last 3 years. And I put in a lot of time, effort, not only myself, but my whole family. And we basically rebuilt the whole organization. And we've got it at a much higher level now. It's a recognized organization, and people have a different image about Pakistani people now, especially in Ottawa, not only in the community, in other communities, as well as on the Hill.
You said it very true, and you have brought the association at such a level where it's going to be very hard to fill your